Hey, welcome to the. See, I even blew the first line. Welcome to the Continuing Winemaker series here at the Wine of the Month Club. And yes, we have California wine history right here in our office with Mr. Mark Beringer, winemaker at Artesa, with incredible background in this business, as well as Beringer being of the family name. Yes,
that's right.
But I also found out that we have the same sort of history, except he went into making, and I still sell the stuff. And that is, you worked in your dad's liquor store.
I did. From the age of 12 years old, I was in my dad's wine shop.
Yeah, so was it a wine shop only, or did you have like...
No, back in those days, you still had all the candy and cigarettes and
right,
all that kind of stuff. But it evolved into a fine wine shop eventually.
I'll never forget my dad. We got in so much trouble one Christmas Eve because my dad did not like closing that store early. And so we worked till 11 o'clock, and we probably sold 2 packs of cigarettes on Christmas Eve.
That's exactly right. I remember that well, too. And you knew who they were, too.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
same people.
We got home, my mom was gone. She had said, that's enough. I'm not doing this anymore. You're going to go. If you're going to go to sell cigarettes on Christmas Eve, I'm going to go. So she went to, like, Denny's with my sister for Christmas Eve.
Oh, no.
I got in big trouble. We got in big trouble. So you did that for a while, and then you went off to... being a Beringer, the company was growing at that. When did Beringer start, actually?
Beringer started in 1876, but my family sold it in 1971.
Wow. But 1876 had to be one of the top 3 or 4.
One of the original wineries of Napa. Yeah,
right?
It's still a California historical landmark.
Is it really? Wow. So Hazarathy, those guys were all around then.
Mm-hmm. It was Charles Krug.
Krug,
my great-great-grandfather worked for Charles Krug, actually.
Wow.
When Charles Krug owned it. And there was the Hans Cornells of the
right,
world.
yeah, sure, right.
Yeah, and there was the Schrammsberg family, which my family was close to. Jacob Schramm and Jacob Beringer were poker buddies.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what that was like back then. I mean,
it had to be a pretty interesting time.
You guys have photographs? You have photo albums?
Yeah. My father actually produced a book for the winery. I think that's still available there at the winery. That's kind of a coffee table book with
very
a lot of
interesting
old photos. Yeah.
So you mentioned off camera that you were part of, you went to school, but you actually started kind of reverse of the order. Most kids now come out of enology school, then they start twisting bolts and stuff, and now you're...
Yeah, usually you have to get that degree, and then you get thrown into an internship and have to figure out how to hook up a pump. But I started out in the wine business at a young age. As soon as I was able to work in the cellar at 18 years old and be around wine, I worked for my uncles and cousins at Raymond Winery, and spent a lot of time in the cellar and on the bottling line and learned to drive a forklift. And by the time I got my degree, I had 6 years of experience. So I had a little bit of an advantage over my peer group probably when I arrived on the scene.
Yeah. So you had heard them talking and why they press the grapes. You watched them press the grapes. You actually probably picked up after they pressed the grapes.
Yeah, it's funny. They would use all this terminology. I had no idea what they were talking about. Adding bentonite to the tanks, for example. And I had to go to school to figure out, what was that bentonite stuff that I was adding, and what was I adding it for? But I just knew it needed to be done. It just had to be done.
That's very interesting. Because you said even with your dad's wine shop that. You as I did too, stock the shelves, and you're going, wait a minute, that that didn't belong there.
Right. Yeah, that's when I learned how to read a wine label very quickly. Actually, it's ironic. I worked at Duckhorn for 15 years, but it was a Duckhorn bottle I was putting on the shelf, and my father corrected me because I was putting the 3 Palms in front of the Napa Merlot, and no, that's different. So I learned really quickly to read it.
The Boone's Farm strawberry goes next to the grape, right?
Exactly. Is that get the flavors correct. Exactly.
So this is now you're at Artesa. You're making wine for them.
Been at Artesa 5 years. So this is our estate-grown Chardonnay. Comes right off the property there in Carneros. We're located right at the south end of Napa, between kind of where Napa and Sonoma come together, right on the San Francisco Bay. So it's a cool climate. Gets nice, cool conditions to make Burgundian varieties.
Yeah.
We also have high elevation vineyards there. We're 400 feet above sea level, which is quite high for Carneros. Not for other parts of Napa, but for Carneros, that's considered significant because it gives us more aspect of the sun, better drainage. We have some rock in our soil because of the end of the Mayacamas mountain ranges there. So we get a nice minerality and some really good fruit intensity.
What I love about it is not overbearing, it's not over oaked, it's got a great balance and it shows the terroir. Carneros runs at that, where the 2 valleys meet, kind of spans over there, and it's known for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, really.
That's right. Yeah, cool climate, grapes.
Gorgeous wine.
Thank you.
And the 2010 is the current vintage, which is really fun to see because we still see a lot of 10s and even 9s sometimes now, but they're doing pretty well.
Yeah, the
You know?
10 vintage was a little bit understated in the beginning, being a cool vintage, but for us, making cool climate varieties, that was a good thing.
Right, yeah,
And much of
exactly.
Napa was complaining about green wines or green tannins, and for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, actually, those were what you want.
That's what you want, yeah.
Mhm.
We get this glass here, so I guess we're going to use our white wine glass for our 4 buckets since they didn't bring them. So, I was intrigued by this Carneros Pinot because of its Burgundian softness, and it's just not an aggressive wine, and I love that about Pinot Noir when it's made that way.
Yeah, I refer to it as more of a feminine style of Pinot Noir, and what I mean by that is it tends to be kind of lighter and fruitier. It has a nice strawberry, red cherry aspect to it. It doesn't have brutish tannins or anything like that.
No.
So it's a little more understated. That's what Carneros really is to me, and I think too many people have been putting too much manipulation into the wine, too much oak, too much color extraction, trying to make it something that it's not. Everybody chasing, the wines that are getting top scores. But to me, growing up in the area and knowing what Carneros is or should be, it's a lighter style, and you don't want to over oak it and cover it up with too much winemaking. You want that fruit to come through.
It's perfect. This is really a great expression
Thank you.
of what it should be, and you don't get one or the other. You get a nice, wonderful meld of the character it's supposed to be, and clearly the terroir comes through, and too much we see, particularly in Pinot Noir, because it went through that whole popularity feature with Sideways, and now it's back available at a reasonable price. I think this is a great value Pinot.
And people were trying to make those big dark ones using
Yeah,
all kinds of
for no
tannins
reason.
and extraction techniques, and even adding Syrah in some cases, which is just
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that actually. Bizarre. So now we're gonna just go up the hill a little bit. Same winery.
That's right.
Same plot of land generally, except we're a little higher.
Yeah, the property's 150 acres. Primarily, it's Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. But the lower parts of the property, the flats as we call them, are more of a heavy clay soil, which is typical of Carneros. But as I was mentioning earlier, we have high elevation vineyards on our property. And that brings the aspect of the sun, the drainage, makes a more intense fruit. So that stylistically, these wines are very, very different, even though they come off the exact same property.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And that's what elevation will do for you. And it allows us to use a little more oak, and we're talking about 25% on that Carneros Pinot Noir. Here we up it to about 50%, but still not what some people
It's
are
not
doing.
overbearing,
That
no.
100%
No,
brand new
yeah,
French
but
oak for 20 months. This is 9 months to 10 months and 50% brand new oak, and that's just enough.
It's
to
an
give it
accent
that-
rather than the
Yeah.
direction of it. And what's really fun to taste, grapes from the same plot of land, just different elevations and different soils, and see what it does, because it really is about the terroir.
It
right?
really is,
Yeah.
and that's what we want to come through in the wine specifically. Is if you don't see where it came from, there's not much point in it. Then the wine industry just becomes
Right.
one big monolith of everything that tastes
Just
the same.
wine.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's 13.5% alcohol or better. We're doing well, right?
that's right.
So we're moving into the Bordeaux varietals, and this is a brand called Elements. It's part of your product line, right?
Yes, this is another wine that we make, kind of to capture the Bordeaux side of our business. Our primary focus has been the Burgundian varietals at Artesa for the last 5 years that I've been there. So we kind of been working with this line extension, if you want to call it that, of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Red Table wine. And it's a really nice value wine. We see a lot of wines by the glass in restaurants because it hits a good price point, has really quality juice in there. So it's a really well-structured wine.
I can say from all the wines we taste in this price range, which is around $19, $20, and if I came into a restaurant and said, "Give me a glass of Cabernet," I'd be very happy to receive this, because it's very complex for being your, not fighting varietal, but your product line.
Especially it's right in there. It's a Sonoma County appellation.
Yeah.
So we use a lot of Alexander Valley fruit in there.
I love the
Alexander
nose.
Valley cabs, they have that distinctive Jordan style,
Yeah.
fruit forward.
It's great.
But still has structure.
Actually, all the reds so far have changed since we opened them just, 10 minutes ago?
Yeah, these were freshly opened this
Yeah.
morning, so yeah, they are evolving in the glass a little bit.
The noses are definitely coming alive.
I think you'll definitely see that in the next Cabernet more than any of.
Really fun. It's just fun to see too that there's Bordeaux varietals coming out of the winery down there when classically it's known for Burgundian wines. And this really, even when you first opened it, it really blew me away. This is really something I would have.
You know, even though we are primarily focused on Carneros, and that's where the winery is, and we have the 150 acres of vineyard there, we have a property on Atlas Peak, which is, if you know the Napa Valley, it's on the eastern side, kind of above Stag's Leap, next to the Pritchard Hill appellation. It makes fantastic, dark, intense Bordeaux wines. It's a volcanic soil, about 1,200 feet above sea level. Really rich in rock. I mean, there's rocks the size of cars that were pulled out of that vineyard to develop it. Really deep red soil, volcanic soil. And it has a little hint of sage in the wine. Like, once again, talking about terroir, it should express its place, and that's that little hint of sage that I get in the nose. It's just enough of it to give it some complexity, but it doesn't conflict with the nice black fruit that sits underneath it.
It's so verbose. There's so much going on. And just in the nose, you just want to smell it, right? You know?
Yeah, it just has so much. When you get that first dried herb and then you smell the dark fruits, you're like, well, do those really work together? And it's just, if it's in the right ratios, it does.
Yeah, it's great. It's really good.
Gets a little bit of that dark chocolate, too, and earthiness that's in there.
This is a great finish to a wonderful interview. I appreciate the time and coming out and seeing us. And
My pleasure.
hope to come and see you. You have a guest quarters up there, I assume.
Absolutely.
Right?
You have a beautiful, beautiful, so we have a beautiful visitor center for people to come up and see it. We have a gorgeous view of the San Francisco Bay, overlooking the San Francisco area, so it's a wonderful place to come visit.
I guess that means we're over.
I guess so.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'll take that out. That's the first time I've ever heard the thing go off.